Have you ever wondered, why are homeschoolers so weird? Stick around, that's what we're talking about today on the Parent Teacher Bridge. Hi, I'm Rebecca with the Parent Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and solutions you need to empower you to be your child's most influential teacher. And today I'm talking about that question, why are homeschoolers so weird? So before we begin, make sure you click like and subscribe, and along the way, drop a comment or question that you have. So before we really get into that, think about, well, what do you mean by weird? Do you mean different? Do you mean strange? And if you mean different from what? Are you making the assumption that everyone else is the same? So think about some of those ideas, and then I'm going to give you a few more to think about. So the first thing to keep in mind is, if you say, okay, homeschoolers are weird, you're making a generalization, correct? In one day, any kid that is school age could be considered a homeschooler. All they have to do is their parents take them out of school and say, okay, we're going to go homeschool. And then boom, they're homeschoolers. So there are all kinds of homeschoolers. There are homeschoolers that have been doing it since day one. There were COVID homeschoolers. There are kids that are just doing it for a year or two while their family is on the road or in some extracurricular activity. So keep in mind that there are different types. They're not all going to be, as some would say, weird. And why are they that way? Well, one thing to keep in mind is a lot of people are going to blame them and say, well, they're not getting socialization. And those same people would turn around and say they're not thrilled with the socialization their child is getting in a school setting. They may be getting bullied. They may be getting exposed to certain ideals from peers or even teachers. So that's one thing to keep in mind is they may say, well, you're missing socialization. Okay, then get your child in a traditional school for socialization, but then are you going to be pleased with that? So those are some things that you might want to balance. Have I seen some homeschool kids who could use a little bit more socialization? Absolutely. However, that is not the norm in the homeschool world. Most of the homeschoolers that I see obviously are not going to be people that are just sticking to themselves. They're going to be people that are out in a co-op, in a tutorial, in an extracurricular activity, such as cross country, a certain sport like basketball, baseball, things like that, or even choir. My kids have participated in extracurricular activities with other homeschool friends during the day. The other thing to keep in mind is homeschoolers can still be involved at their local church or whatever kind of lessons they are taking that they are involved in the evening too. So they still are getting socialization that way. But if you mean weird by, okay, you've met a lot of homeschoolers and they're all just, something's just different about them, consider this. This might be a reason. So homeschoolers are not in the typical school environment where you have kids in particular cliques, where you're around peers all the time, more than you have mixed age groups. Homeschoolers are usually around mixed age groups, and they're usually in a nurturing environment, not more so, or just have random kids with them who may bully or whatever. So that may be something that causes them to be a little bit more comfortable in their own skin. If they've been around a supportive network of people, then they're not going to be really overly concerned. Am I wearing something in style? Am I doing this just like everybody else? Now, it's human nature to want to be included and involved. So a little bit of that you're going to see anyway because you're dealing with kids and humans. But in general, that is something that I have noticed with the homeschool groups that I've been involved in. My oldest is now 16 and he's always been homeschooled. So, I do notice that there are some differences. The last thing to keep in mind, if you know someone that's homeschooled that you would say, okay, they're weird. Okay. Number one, are you making the assumption that you've never met someone that you would consider weird in a school setting? Because I know I grew up going to public school, and definitely there were some people I would have called weird. And then the last thing is, what if they are weird, but it's not homeschooling making them that way. If they have weird parents, they're going to be weird anyway. And what is weird was whatever, is strange to you or however you define it. But people are going to behave like the other people that they are around. They're going to behave like their parents, or they're going to behave however their parents allow them to behave. In my experience of teaching both in private school and public school and homeschool groups, you're going to have kids of all types. You may have some that push the limits. You may have some who are very inclusive, some that are very compliant and obedient. You're going to have your ADHD types that blurt out. You're going to have lots of different types of kids. So just remember, it's a generalization when people ask that question. And if you are concerned about that as a homeschool parent, just remember, if your child ends up being a little different, it may be because they've had a supportive network and they're really just comfortable being who they are. All right. Do you have an additional thought that you would like to add, or maybe even a question? Drop it in the comments below. And remember to click like and subscribe. Parents, you're your child's most influential teacher.